And what it does, and I watched Adam, you were working, it wasn't the Han, but it was something similar to that, right? Up on Limekiln. And so the logs are back at the landing. They've been stripped of the branches, and now they got to cut it into the lengths that they want, whoever they're selling it to. So this thing would pick up the log, set it on a frame, and then there was a stop on the frame that stopped it at the length you wanted. So if you wanted 4-foot logs, it would stop it at 4 foot. If you wanted 8-foot logs, it would stop it. The saw comes down like that. Now you've got 2 8-foot logs. You load it onto the truck.
It was a shear.
A shear?
A shear.
On this particular.
On this one.
And a shear.
So it just came down with hydraulic power. Yeah. Yeah. But again, there's the one operator working the whole thing.
Right.
Yep.
And actually that was the 2 on the highway.
Well, here they are, the 2 handsomest guys in Inlet. Can you tell who, by the smile, can you tell who's who? So, Sid and John had been building this business and the shift to the safety and trying to do logging the way it should be done. And in 1982, they were recognized by the Northern Logger, which is an organization, association that covers 21 states in the Northeast, okay, as the outstanding logging operators for that particular year. Pretty proud, and they should be, because they built that business up to a point where it was being recognized nationally now. Yeah, I love the smiles. And the hair, they both got the same, you know, they still got. Come on, guys, what am I doing wrong here?
Different color.
Another expansion occurred when they decided to bring in milled wood. Okay, the kiln dried, and then the
Pressure treated.
pressure treated. Thanks, Sid. The pressure treated. Okay, and that reduced about the milling that they did, but it allowed the business to expand because now we could go there and get what we needed, the exact size, and so on. The problem was the old mill. It was rough cut lumber. It was a true 2x4, 2x6. Well, now if you wanted to add on to your old camp, you ran into a little problem because the wood didn't line up quite the same way. I know we had that problem at our place when we decided to expand a little bit. But it certainly, and you realize this is the only lumber yard in this entire area. You'd have to go to Indian Lake, I think.
It's not even there anymore.
That's not there anymore either. Okay, so what a great service this provides to these communities here that they've got this quality of material. A new wrinkle. It's always, you know, things are always changing, and one of the things that comes about is government regulations, not only safety-wise, but also in terms of the environment. You had some companies who were coming and literally clear-cutting whole sides of a mountain, and then the rains would come, and it would just literally wash all that soil down into the streams and so on. So all of these things now are becoming issues that John and Sid have to deal with. OSHA, of course, we all know that you know, they control the safety issues on anything, and you can't say, "Oh, I didn't realize that was a danger. I didn't realize that was a problem." If somebody got hurt, you were responsible for it. Okay, and so again, the equipment is the key, and both John and Sid begin to upgrade equipment even more to make them even safer. This is a log loader. It would sit on the back of this truck, but then it literally could swing in 360 degrees. It would pick up the logs, drop them on the truck, and as I say, they were doing a job up on Lime Lakes Road this spring, so I went up and I watched Adam loading up the truck. And you know, you think, well, what's it like to just pick up a bunch of logs, and well, you got to drop them in the right place. They've got to all fall into, you don't want gaps, and you don't want logs moving around while you're driving them to the mill. So it's a skilled job, and so we've got the third generation here working that equipment and keeping the business going. The logging practices begin to change, again, with the new environmental rules and so on. It was called Sustained Forestry Initiative. So instead of going in and just clear cutting a whole tract of land, okay, there's some new methods you can use to keep the forest sustainable. Selective harvesting. So you go into this tract of land and you only take out trees that are a certain diameter. And the ones that are less than that you leave, and 10, 15, 20 years you can come back to that same plot and you've got new logs to harvest. Protecting the forest from fires, pests, disease, all of that becomes an issue for loggers to deal with. Back before they were chipping, oftentimes you'd see loggers, they just leave all that brush and junk that they didn't want. They just leave it at the landing and walk away. Well, that was a source of possible forest fire. Again, it wasn't acceptable anymore. And then you clear cut, it gets washed down into the streams, the lakes. All of a sudden it's affecting the water quality and the fish. You clear cut, you know, the birds, the deer, fox, they don't have any place to hide. They don't have any place to build a nest or to... So again, all of these things become an issue that a logger has to deal with. New York State is a leader in growing more timber than it harvests, which is a great thing. I mean, it's something to be proud of. Here was, again, Sid and John being recognized for the quality of harvesting that they do. You said this was up near Big Moose going in towards Stillwater? Yeah. Okay, and so this group, this national group, this guy here, and then here's John and Sid here, but that national group came in to observe and see what John and Sid were doing. So again, here's this little operation in the tiny hamlet of Inlet, doing things that people throughout the state and throughout the nation are saying, that's good logging practice. Now, here are two of the newer methods. The one on the left, if you can see, the tan places are where they cut the trees. And the green places are where they left the trees. So any animal in that area still has a place to hide, to nest, for nuts and so on that would fall from the tree. There's still an area there for them. The selective cutting, which is on the right, this is the one where you go in and only take trees of a certain diameter and leave the smaller ones to come back 10, 15 years. Now that sounds like a lot to us, but in the meantime, you're going off and doing this in other places, and 10, 15 years, all of a sudden you're back there again harvesting more logs. Sid just gave me this the other night. We were looking at where they sent their logs and where they sent their products. So you can see the different types of products that they're dealing with. Okay, so pulp, all right, went to the paper mills. Boise Cascade was a stud mill, so that was a certain type of lumber that they needed. That was spruce, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. The pulp and chips hardwood cants. Now, Sid was trying to explain this to me, and he lost me about halfway through. But it was
telescope furniture where they make the aluminum chairs and the arms.
yeah.
Up in Granville, and they bought all this wood from us, an 8-foot length hardwood. We grew up there for years.
Yep.
So the arms on those chairs had to be hardwood,
Yeah.
and they provided the logs for that. North Hudson Woodcraft, fiddle for spruce.
They made spruce. They
Piano,
had spruce
sounding boards for all
for
the
piano sounding boards and fiddle.
pianos and
They also made ball hats, but not for the spruce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got the veneer, which is it's a hardwood, birch, and they literally shave it in layers right off the trunk. Tupper Lake had a huge veneer factory up there. But look at Boonville furniture, cherry logs, okay? And hardened furniture, cherry logs. Vital to that operation. And you're in the woods and you see these particular trees, and you take them because you know you've got somebody that wants to buy them. And of course, then the Canadian markets as well, as you'll see the Levi log trucks going up and down the road, and they're either going to probably a pulp mill, or they're maybe. Do you still transport to Canada?
Yeah, we still do
Yeah. Okay.
in
So
the spring usually.
yeah. 1997, another big transition occurs. Okay. Sid decides that he'd rather be doing other things besides logging in the woods. And so he and Dolores decide to retire, and they sell their share to John and Linda. Now, you got to realize that Sid and Dolores and John and Linda, that was not only a partnership in marriage, that was a partnership in business as well, because both wives were very important in terms of the bookkeeping, especially at the office, and keeping track of the bills and so on. So this really was a family operation. And Dan and Jerry and John and Julie, Adam and Thomas, they were all there, okay? Lenny, Payne on Sid's side, they were all involved in this operation, okay? So when you say it was a family business, it was a family business. So here's the new Sid. Fishing, golfing, and of course family is very important to Sid, and celebrating. And was this an anniversary for you, Sid, or was this a wedding of someone?
Anniversary.
You don't have a picture of the hole-in-one, though.
No, but that's at the golf course, so you can go and see that. Yeah. All right, so now it's a new company. It's Levi Lumber, okay? And again, it's a family business. So John Sr., John Jr., John Jr., Jerry, and Dan, okay? They're smiling, so there must have been payday probably or something. Because it's winter time. And Julie worked in the office and so on, so the whole family was involved in it.
There must have been a day when nothing was broke.
It was funny. Dan was up at the site landing on Lanco Lake Road, and I went by a couple times and I saw him over by the skidder, but nothing was moving. And so finally I stopped and I went in, and what was it, a pin, Dan, or something? There was some small thing you said you never seen it break.
Yeah.
And he worked for several hours trying to get that thing, get the old pin out, right? That was the problem. And then he had to call the company and have them send a new one and so on. You know, that's the thing. That skidder wasn't moving until that thing got fixed. And it was raining. It was muddy right there. You know, it was not a pleasant day at the races. So here's the Levy family: John, Dan, John Sr., Linda, Julie, and
Jerry.
is that Jerry on the end? No, Jerry's here. That's John Jr., right? Okay, got it. All right. And of course, Linda was a big part of the Levy company business as well, because she ran the office. And you went in there and you ordered from Linda, and that was, and then she kept track of the books. Now, here's the other thing. If you marry into the Levy family, you're in the business as well. Okay, so here's Heather, Jerry's wife on the left, and Georgia is Dan's wife on the right. And they both work in the office as well. So you better or worse, that's the thing you promised, right? And then there's always a third generation as well. And a story, Thomas, you're here, right? There you are. Lynn and I were driving down our road. We're on the 7th Lake Road. And we come almost to our place, and there's a bobcat on the side, and there's this little kid in it operating it. And, you know, Lynn says, we better see what's going on. Maybe nobody knows he's there. Well, Dan is there. And, he was just someplace else, and Thomas was working the bobcat. And I said something to Lynn later, and I said, well, you got to realize that Dan and Jerry and John, they started that early too, so it was not a new thing. And so you grew up in the business for sure. And Laura now is a registered nurse. She's done Utica, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you have ever had the Levy company come in and cut a tree down for you, but you know, they don't just cut the bottom and say timber, you know, let it fall, because you don't always know where it's going. So those buckets that they have, and they go right up, limb the whole thing, and then they'll cut it down in 8-10 foot sections, bang, 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 right down until they get down to the ground. Bill and Lynn Farrell were having a big white pine cut down in front of Woodhome. And so the boys came in, and I don't know who climbed the tree. I think it was Adam climbed the tree that day. But anyways, the thing was probably 80 to 90 years old. And it was a good 80 feet high. And so Adam's going up, limbing, going up, limbing. And then it gets to the top, and the top maybe 10, 15 feet, he just cut off. Well, when that weight of that top came down, and I'm sitting on my porch watching this thing, and the trunk is going like this, and all I hear is, yahoo! But anyways, they, you know, that's a whole different business for them, is taking care of trees that are a problem for people. Here's the knuckle boom? No, yeah, knuckle, okay. The end of this thing swivels just like this, okay? So you reach down, you grab it like this, or you can turn it like that, however the logs are set up, and then you can bring it up, and then you can turn it whichever way to drop it on the truck. So it's a great device, but you better know what you're doing with it, because you've got these logs swinging around, and you better know where they are, and you better know where you want them to drop. And what's interesting is, he took that knuckle boom part and literally, just like you use your hands to move things around, he'd get them lined up because you don't want spaces in there, you don't want places where the logs are going to move. And so it was almost like an extended hand as he was operating that particular piece of machinery. So here you are at a landing area. This is all the equipment they might have used to do this particular job. The harvester is over on the left. You've got a couple of skidders there. The chipper is in the back. You see the semi there with the cab or the trailer on the back of it, blowing the chips in and so on. And you can see how clean this area is. So that all that scrap that normally they couldn't have used, now they can clean that right up, and it's looks like a decent piece of ground, even though it's completely cut now. The sawmill's gone, but the lumber is still there, fortunately for us. Sometimes getting there is the hardest thing. They're over on Racket Lake. They're on Dean Pole's barge. So I'm sure that it wasn't always quite as steady as you would want it to. And then they've got that bucket. You can see how high that's extended right to the end of its length. Dan, you were saying you were on this job, right?
Yeah, it was.
Tell me what it was like in that bucket up there.
A lot of visitors.
He said boats were lined up all along the shore watching this thing.
Reefers over, I think.
Road building has become John's specialty. If you want a road into your camp or whatever, John will build it, and it'll be one that you can use for a long time. But road building was a big part of the logging business as well, because you had to have access into these kind of remote areas, and you couldn't depend on frozen ground in the winter, because our winters have changed dramatically up here. So when you build a road, you had to build it that could handle all that heavy equipment. John is pretty good at it. So trucking, and again, you'll see the levee semis going up. Just to give you an idea, and again, Adam just explained this to me. See those posts that are sticking up? Okay. Well, the amount of pressure on those things as those logs are in there and all bound up, you said what, 20,000 each one of those posts?
Your your tonnage for the way that we truck with your axles. So on 7 axles in New York State, you're going to 117,000 pounds. So you can basically consider 40 ton on your load with the truck and trailer weight empty, because that'd be your care weight. So it's a little less than 20,000 a tier, because we get 5 tier 80 foot.
Yeah.
Goes to 40 tons. So it's
That's tough steel. You don't want that thing bending when you're going down the road. Firewood. I don't know how many of you still have wood furnaces or wood stoves in your camp, but firewood is critical. This machine is unbelievable. It takes the log, chunks it to the size you want, 12-inch, 16-inch, whatever, and then hydraulic arm pushes that log against it's kind of an X, isn't it like kind of an X-shaped wedge? And as the chunk goes through, it breaks it into 4 parts, falls onto a conveyor belt. The conveyor belt takes it up and dumps it into their truck, and when they got the load, off they go and they deliver it to your house. Pretty neat operation. And you thought they were out there with an axe splitting all the wood. Yeah. For 70 years, there's been a Payne or a Levi logging in this area, and doing it successfully and well and safely. It's a tribute to both of those men and their families to be able to carry on that business for that long in a small community like Inlet. Just to show you that people recognized the skill and the care that these two gentlemen ran their business. This is from the director of Sagamore, and they were up there doing some, were you doing some cutting up there, I think, or something? Yeah. And I just wanted to drop you a note and tell you how much I appreciate your cooperation and productivity during our contract period. I know that you had some rough going, but I guess the old Yankee know-how and persistence pays off. Should you need a reference for any future work that you bid, please feel free to use my name personally on that university or that of the university. Have a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. Thomas Lippa, Director. And then there was one other. This is from Finch Prine. Is it Prine or Prune? Or? Prine? Okay. I never. Woodlands manager Dick Neeson of Finch, Prine and Company has the highest regard for the Payne levee operation. Speaking candidly, Dick says, utilization is excellent. The operation is an ongoing site preparation with every effort made to maintain the forest, reduce compaction, and preserve water quality and wildlife. Payne levee are instrumental in helping Finch Prine create a model wintering yard that in the future may be part of a field test in conjunction with the State University of New York's College of Environmental Science and Forestry at Syracuse University. So these guys were in the front of this logging industry and were recognized for that throughout their 70 years here. I want to thank Sid and John because both of and their families because they were both a great help to me in putting this together. I also want to thank the Historical Society for giving me the chance to do this. And some of those old photographs I was able to get into the library at Atlantic Experience with Jenny Ambrose, and she sent me literally hundreds of pictures of the logging industry in the area, and I was able to use some of those for the slideshow. I had a wonderful time doing this. I talked to two men that I certainly admire, and I'm just glad that I had a chance to learn about them and learn about the logging industry, and hopefully all of you will recognize their gift as well. Thank you. All right, drinks are on John and Sid. Let you figure out how to turn that on.